Is Jon Snow truly alive? The blade went in deep. Black cloaks gathered. Snow fell like ash upon his blood. And then nothing. What became of him? What of Stannis Baratheon, the last king of royal blood with fire in his veins, last seen in the snow outside Winterfell? Is he truly gone, or merely waiting? And Daenerys Stormborn, the mother of dragons, did her dragons truly carry her across the sea to fire and glory? Or were there other fates written in the stars, other paths she never took? Across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond the narrow sea, there are stories that never reach the screen, names never spoken, deaths never mourned, victories never claimed. The tale you think you know may not be the tale that was told. What if Sansa never walked the halls of Winterfell as a captive bride? What if Tyrion never bent the knee in a foreign court? What if the dead never marched behind a single face, and instead came with no name at all? In the shadows of the pages, other players move. A forgotten Targaryen prince with golden eyes, a silent queen who walks the Riverlands with a noose for judgment, a horn that sings to dragons, a ship that sails with smoke and blood, and a hand burnt black by prophecy. This is not the story as the realm remembers it. This is the tale as it was written. In this journey, we'll uncover 15 great divergences, moments where the path forked, where the show turned one way and the books another. Each one changed alliances, destinies, and the very shape of war and winter. But beware, these are not whispers from the citadel or rumors of drunkards. These are the true lines of succession, betrayal, and vengeance, buried beneath what was aired. And if you think the battle for the dawn ended with one sword, you have much yet to learn. If you seek the truths the ravens never carried, if you desire the lore beneath the legend, then linger and subscribe to this chronicle, for what was left out may be what mattered most. The tale continues now, and it begins with the first great silence. Snow fell. It fell in silence, soft as secrets, and blanketed the stones of Castle Black and pale white. The flames had long since guttered in the Lord Commander's tower, and only the wind stirred, whispering across the battlements like a dying breath. Below, in the cold courtyard where crows once trained for war, his body still lay. They had left him there. They always did. Jon Snow was dead. The knives had found him at the edge of a choice. His brothers of the Night's Watch, those he had led, bled for, wept beside, had turned their blades inward. Not for greed, not for vengeance, for fear. Fear of the wildlings he welcomed beyond the wall. Fear of a war that none of them understood. And perhaps, deepest of all, fear of the blood that ran beneath his bastard's name. The fire that stirred in his veins without his knowing. He fell in a dance with dragons, the 5th book in the saga. For blades in the dark. Bowen Marsh, tears streaming down his cheeks, whispered, for the watch. The last thing Jon felt was the cold, not from the snow, but from within. And then, nothing. No heartbeat. No resurrection. No rebirth by fire. No hands of a red priestess to summon him back to breath. No battle of the bastards. No banners flying in his name. No union with Daenerys Targaryen. In the true telling, Jon remains in the space between life and death, the cliffhanger George R. Martin left readers upon, one of blood and silence and waiting. But the story as remembered by the realm, the one etched into song and screen, diverged. In that version, Jon returns. Not after days or weeks or chapters of mourning, but swiftly. His body grows cold, and then warm again, touched by Melisandre, the Red Woman of Ashai. In the span of a single hour, the Night's Watch loses its Lord Commander and gains a resurrected symbol, a messianic leader unchained from old vows. With ghosts in his eyes and vengeance in his heart, he marches on Winterfell, gathers wildlings under his banner, executes traitors, and proclaims his name once more. Not Snow, not Bastard, King. The battle of the bastards follows. Ramsay Bolton falls. Sansa returns. Winterfell is reclaimed, and soon, Jon meets the Dragon Queen, two heirs of fire and frost, brought together by fate and the war against the dead. But none of this, not a single step, can unfold without Jon's resurrection. And in the books, it hasn't happened. So what changes? Everything. Without Jon's return, there is no unifying force to rally the North. No retaking of Winterfell. Ramsay's rule, brutal, erratic, unchecked, goes unchallenged. The Boltons remain entrenched. The Starks are scattered, presumed dead or forgotten. The wildlings remain isolated, leaderless, and vulnerable beyond the wall. Melisandre's visions, still clouded in fire, offer no deliverance, only shadows. Most of all, the wall itself remains a powder keg. Jon's death fractures the already brittle unity of the Night's Watch. Marsh and his conspirators must now reckon with the blood they've spilled, the oaths they've broken. A power vacuum forms, not just politically, but spiritually. For if Jon is dead, and yet dreams in the snow, then what becomes of duty? What becomes of prophecy? There are whispers, of course. In his final moments, Jon thinks not of vengeance or glory, but of Ghost, his dire wolf, his other half. And the books are not strangers to warging, the ancient ability of the first men to enter the minds of beasts. Jon may live on, not in flesh, but in fur, in Ghost's red eyes, in the soundless howl that pierces the frozen night. And Melisandre remains at the wall. She sees things in her fires, glimpses of battle, of snow, of a man cloaked in shadows who bears a sword of flame. Is it Stannis? Is it Jon? Her prayers go unanswered. Her magic is imprecise. And the Lord of Light, as always, is silent. But without resurrection, the very tapestry of the war to come unravels. Jon does not kneel to Daenerys. He does not unite North and South. He does not ride dragons or face the others or fall to a lover's hand. The war for the Dawn remains unwritten, and yet the stakes do not vanish. For if Jon remains dead, truly dead, then who will lead the fight? If not the bastard of Winterfell, then perhaps the secret prince across the sea, or the last true Baratheon, or the Queen of Ashes, or someone forgotten entirely. In the silence where Jon's breath once was, the future reshapes itself. And so we begin, not with a resurrection, but with a question. What if death was permanent? The sea called to her, not the cold, gray waters that kissed the fingers of Westeros, but the choking, humid shores of Slaver's Bay, where ships rot in harbors and banners of old gods hang limp in polluted air. She was born in a storm, Daenerys of House Targaryen, stormborn and unburnt, last scion of the dragon's blood. Her birthright lay across the narrow sea, but her story, the true story, has not yet left the sands of Essos. In the tale most know, she crosses the ocean. Her feet touch the soil of Dragonstone. She sets fire to lords and armies. She bends Tyrion Lannister to her council, frees the unsullied, unites Dothraki and Northmen alike. She becomes a conqueror, a queen, a dragon, and in the end, a monster. But the books tell a different tale, a tale still tangled in the smoke and ruins of Meereen. As a dance with dragons ends, Daenerys does not sail for Westeros. She does not command fleets. She does not know Jon Snow. She does not even rule. Her hold over Meereen slips like sand through fingers. Her city is torn by war, disease, and treachery. Her council is fractured, her dragons chained or scattered. She leaves them all behind, Drogon beneath her, her body weakened, her feet burned, her mind spinning with visions and prophecy. She is not a queen on a throne. She is a girl, lost in grasslands, her silver hair tangled, her strength broken. And yet, this moment of abandonment changes everything. In the show, Daenerys' story compresses. Meereen becomes a footnote. Tyrion becomes her hand after a single conversation. The slavers are destroyed with fire and fury. Her ships, provided by Yara and Theon Greyjoy, arrive as if by miracle. Within weeks, she is in Westeros. By the end, she has allies in the north, the Reach, and Dorne. Her dragons fly over castles. She burns armies. She destroys the Tarleys. She lays siege to King's Landing. And when bells ring, she becomes fire incarnate. But none of this can begin without the crossing. And in the books, that crossing hasn't happened. Daenerys is trapped in Meereen, not by chains, but by consequence. Her rule is unstable. Her marriage to Hizdahr zo Loraq is a political truce, not a romance. The peace is fragile. The streets whisper of poison. The sons of the Harpies slit throats in the night. The Yunkai have surrounded the city with an army of cells words and siege towers. Plague spreads in the camps. The Pale Mare, they call it. And her enemies gather outside while her allies plot within. Worse, her dragons, symbols of her destiny, have become dangerous and disobedient. She chained 2 in the catacombs beneath the pyramid, fearing they might kill children. Drogon, wild and free, has fled, appearing only in bursts of flame and terror. Her bond with them is fraying. And so, on the day she climbs atop Drogon and vanishes into the Dothraki Sea, she is not flying toward Westeros, but away from everything. What follows is not a triumphant return to her people, but sickness, delirium. A broken queen crawling through the grass, eating berries and insects, haunted by dreams and voices. Kaith speaks to her in riddles. Visions come, of rigor, of prophecy, of betrayal. And still, the sea does not come. Far across the water, ships do sail, but not hers. In Westeros, young Griff, a boy claiming to be Rhaegar's son, lands with the Golden Company. Victarion Greyjoy steers the Iron Fleet towards Slaver's Bay, dragon horn in hand. But Daenerys is unaware. Isolated, the wheel turns without her. Her council has no queen to serve. Ser Barristan Selmy rules Meereen in her name. Tyrion, enslaved and bitter, has not yet met her. And war brews all around. The crossing, then, is not a question of time. It is a question of survival. And yet, the books are not without omens. There are 3 heads of the dragon, the prophecy says. One is Daenerys, but the others? Still unknown. Her vision in the House of the Undying showed her a house with a blue flower growing from a chink in the wall of ice, a reference many believe points northward, toward Jon Snow. But if he lies dead, and she lies lost, then where is the future? Where is the fire? Daenerys, in the books, has not burned cities. She has not killed innocents. She has not fallen to madness or mercy. She is on the edge, not of conquest, but of choice. Will she return to Meereen? Will she fly to Westeros? Will she rule or destroy? The show gave her the ending of a tyrant. A queen consumed by power, drowned in her own prophecy. But the Daenerys of the books has not yet crossed that line, because she has not yet crossed the sea. There is no alliance with Jon, no betrayal at Dragonstone, no bells in King's Landing. Her fate, like her dragons, remains unchained, but unfulfilled. And so, in the true telling, Daenerys Stormborn remains where the story left her. Alone, burned, lost in the grass, still dreaming of Westeros. In the songs sung of him, Tyrion Lannister was a clever man, silver-tongued, sharp-witted, a broken thing in body but not in mind. A dwarf, yes, but also a lion, a lord of coin, a slayer of fathers, a hand to queens and kings alike. In the tale that most remember, his story is a journey of redemption, from exile and chains to council and crown, serving Daenerys Targaryen as her most trusted advisor in the war for Westeros. But that is the other tale, the true one, the tale still written in ink and blood across the pages of A Dance with Dragons, tells a darker story, crueler and colder. For in the books, Tyrion Lannister has not met Daenerys Targaryen. He has not stood at her side. He has not become her hand. He is not redeemed. He is still wandering. His path begins the same, a murder of flight. He kills his father in the privy with a crossbow, then strangles Shay with the chain of her betrayal. But the Tyrion that emerges from that darkness is not wise or noble. He is bitter, angry, foul-mouthed, and self-hating. He drinks until he forgets the taste of guilt. He travels east, not in search of purpose, but in search of oblivion. In the show, he arrives in Meereen swiftly. He shares wine with Daenerys, offers advice, earns her favor. Within weeks, he sits at her left hand. But in the books, Tyrion's descent is slow, agonizingly so. He travels first to Pentos, under the protection of Illyrio Mopatis, the same man who sheltered Viserys and Daenerys in their youth. Illyrio has plans for him. Tyrion is not to go to Daenerys directly, but to join a company, Griff and young Griff, a Sellsword, and his princely son, the latter of whom claims to be Aegon Targaryen, son of Rhaegar, heir to the Iron Throne. This revelation alone upends the game, for if true, Aegon stands ahead of Daenerys in the line of succession, and his invasion of Westeros has already begun. Tyrion is skeptical, always, but he plays along. He tests the boy. He plants seeds of ambition and doubt. And he drinks. Gods, does he drink? Then fate intervenes. Captured and sold into slavery, Tyrion becomes nothing, a chained dwarf riding a pig for the amusement of men. His name means nothing. His family, his crimes, his titles, stripped from him. He shares chains with Ser Jorah Mormont, another exile, another failure, also seeking Daenerys, not for strategy, but for love. Together they suffer, and together they seek her. But as a dance with dragons ends, Daenerys is missing, flown from Meereen on the back of Drogon, her throne empty, her enemies closing in. Tyrion, meanwhile, has joined the Second Sons, a Sellsword company once sworn to the Yunkai, the very enemies surrounding Meereen. He is far from her, still climbing, still scheming. There is no council chamber, no queen to advise, no titles restored, no great speeches. He is not the man from the show, not yet. And this changes everything. Without Tyrion's counsel, Daenerys does not gain the political savvy he offers in the show. She has no voice to temper her rage, no perspective beyond her own advisors, most of whom are gone, untrustworthy, or divided. Her decisions in Meereen are hers alone. The siege, the plague, the betrayals. She navigates them without the benefit or burden of Lannister wit. And on a broader scale, Tyrion's absence means that the great Targaryen alliance, Jon, Dany, and Tyrion united in purpose, does not exist. He has not met Jon. He has not seen the Wall. He has not fought the dead. He is still entangled in the old wars, not the new one. Even his personality diverges. In the show, Tyrion maintains a degree of warmth, a kind heart beneath the cynicism. But in the books, his darkness runs deeper. He fantasizes about rape and murder. He speaks cruelly of those he once loved. He believes himself incapable of goodness. The wit is still there, yes, but it is barbed, bitter, twisted by despair. And yet, he remains dangerous. Because Tyrion Lannister, in any form, is a player. And now, in the books, he stands on the edge of a war, not as a king's hand, but as a Sellsword, aligned with those who may yet turn on Daenerys or crown another. He has not been redeemed. He has not chosen a side. He is still, very much, in play. So what happens when, or if, he meets Daenerys at last? Will he bend the knee and offer her his service? Or will he turn to young Griff, the boy he once advised, and offer him the Seven Kingdoms instead? The show chose one path. The books still hold their breath. He was tall, pale as moonlight, crowned with jagged ice, and silent as the grave. The Night King, a name whispered across 7 seasons, carved into myth by flame and frost. In the tale most know, he was the great enemy, the leader of the White Walkers, the first of the dead, created by the children of the forest, destined to bring night eternal. He raised the dead with a glance, slew a dragon with a spear of ice, and marched on Winterfell with an army of corpses behind him. In that telling, he was the face of death itself, ancient, relentless, godlike. And then he was gone, defeated in a single night, shattered by Valyrian steel, unspoken ever after. But in the books, there is no Night King, no icy monarch, no ancient origin carved into dragonglass, no symbol, no face. The others, as they are truly known, remain faceless, voiceless, unknowable. And in that void of understanding lies their greatest terror. They are not a man. They are not a ruler. They are not even a people with politics and leaders and origin myths. They are a force, cold incarnate, silent death, the return of a power older than memory. The idea of a Night King is borrowed, perhaps, from an old story, the legend of the 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, who took a strange pale bride with blue eyes and ruled the Night Fort in darkness until he was overthrown. That tale, told by old Nan and whispered in the crypts of Winterfell, is myth, not history. George R.R. Martin never confirmed any Night King in canon. There is no singular villain. There is no one to stab in the heart to end the war. And in that lies the heart of the divergence. In the show, the Night King becomes the central antagonist. The War for the Dawn is framed as a struggle of light and dark, hero and villain. Jon is placed opposite him. Daenerys is drawn into the cause. All other politics are brushed aside in anticipation of this confrontation. The Night King destroys the wall. He kills Viserion, resurrects him, and uses the undead dragon to bring down the ancient magic that once protected the realms of men. He marches south, shrouding the world in snow. He kills Theon Greyjoy. He faces Bran Stark. And in a flash of steel, Arya ends him. The threat is over. Final. Instant. But in the books, the others are a whisper, not a roar. They move at the edges. They are first seen in a Game of Thrones, in the prologue, pale, beautiful, deadly. They make no sound. They speak no words. They do not offer commands. They raise the dead with a mere touch. And they kill. They are coming, yes, but not at the head of a horde. Not yet. And because they are not personified, they cannot be predicted or defeated by a single act. There is no villain to kill. There is no prophecy that says, stab this one man. There is only an ancient, natural force, rising. This difference changes everything. Without the Night King, there is no focal point for Jon's struggle. There is no one to fear and rally against. The tension remains abstract. The war is not about one battle. It is about survival over time, about ancient magics, about understanding what is coming without ever fully knowing it. There is no scene where Bran sees the others being created by the children of the forest. That moment, where the show revealed the Night King's origin, never happens. In the books, the children exist, yes, but their relationship to the others is never explained. Their magics are mysterious. Their purpose is unclear. And the wall still stands. Not broken, not breached. Still held by spells older than dragons. Runes that remember names long forgotten. The others have not passed it. They have only probed its edges. So how does this change the story? Without the Night King, the books are free of finality. There is no single confrontation that resolves the arc. The White Walkers, the others, remain in the background, rising like tidewater behind all other conflicts. This allows the human story to remain central. Stannis, Daenerys, Aegon, the Boltons, the Lannisters, the Martells, all of their ambitions are still in motion, not yet silenced by the undead threat. There is no pause button, no united front. The Game of Thrones continues, even as ice creeps toward its gates. And it raises a darker truth. If no Night King exists, then perhaps there is no end to the threat. Perhaps the dead cannot be defeated, only delayed. Perhaps there is no final blow, no secret weapon, no chosen one. Perhaps the War for the Dawn is not a war at all, but a reckoning. In the books, the others have no face, no name, no mercy, and the story they walk into has not yet burned. The dead walk, and no one knows why. Not truly. Not in the way maesters demand, with ink and evidence. Not in the way kings require, with treaties and terms. The others, pale as frozen mist, crowned with crystal armor, eyes glowing blue, remain a mystery, untouched by understanding, unmoved by mercy. In the known world, when enemies rise, they do so with reason. For gold, for land, for vengeance. Even madness has a motive. Even tyrants speak of justice. But the others come without words. They do not speak. They do not negotiate. They do not declare their intentions. They simply come. And in this silence lies the truest divergence of all. In the show, the White Walkers are explained. Their purpose is charted, their creation shown. Bran, in a vision, sees the children of the forest drive a dragonglass dagger into a man's chest, transforming him into the Night King, the first White Walker. They made him, the show claims, as a weapon to defend themselves from mankind. But their creation turned against them. This origin reframes the entire story. It places the undead within a framework of cause and effect. It gives them a motive, revenge, destruction, or some ancient code of obedience. Their silence becomes tragedy. Their march becomes fate. And their end becomes necessary. But in the books, there is no such vision. No origin myth. No definitive answer. The others remain alien. Their first appearance, in the very first pages of A Game of Thrones, reveals everything and nothing. They move without sound, speak in strange languages that shiver like cracking ice, and fight with blades that break steel. They kill without expression. They vanish without trace. And though they seem ancient, nothing is confirmed. Not their age, not their numbers, not their will. Even their name, Others, is a placeholder, a warning. The wildlings call them the Cold Shadows. The first men built the wall to keep them out, but never recorded how they came to be. And now, they return. Slowly, quietly. Corpses rise in the north. Animals first, then men. Rangers go missing. Horses return riderless. And the winds grow colder each year. But why? That question, the one no one can answer, is the most terrifying thing about the books. The show filled the silence. The books preserve it. And it changes the story completely. Without a revealed motive, the threat of the others is existential, not strategic. They are not coming to conquer a kingdom. They are not avenging a betrayal. They are not bound by laws or grudges. They are a force, like winter, like nightfall, and they care nothing for the politics of men. This forces the characters and the reader into uncertainty. What does it mean to prepare for a war when you don't know what the enemy wants? Who do you unite behind when there is no single threat to name? Jon Snow feels their presence. So does Melisandre. So do Bran's visions. But no one truly understands. They guess. They fear. They dream. And still, they do not know. This opens paths the show never walked. In the books, maesters still dismiss the others as legend. The Citadel in Old Town, a fortress of knowledge, treats tales of the undead as superstition. Archmaester Marwyn, one of the few who believes in magic and prophecy, is an outcast. He departs to find Daenerys, believing a reckoning is coming. But even he does not claim to know the truth of the others. The show's flashbacks and lore stripped that mystery away. They made the threat visual, immediate, tangible, a villain with a face, a war with a beginning and an end. The books do not, and that silence builds. Every chapter north of the wall, every vision in the fire, every cold wind carries with it a deeper dread, not just that death is coming, but that it cannot be understood, that there is no secret prophecy to explain it all, that the songs of Azor Ahai and the prince that was promised may be misread, that the dead walk because they do. There is a horror in the unknown that no army can match. The show gave us closure, a Night King, a backstory, a plan. It gave us answers, so the war could be won. The books give us questions, and that, perhaps, is why the wall has not yet fallen. Why the true battle for the dawn has not yet begun. Because the more you understand something, the easier it is to fight. And the others are not here to be understood. They are here to end things. The snow never stops falling. It buries the trees, the tents, the banners. It chokes the breath from soldiers' mouths. Horses die, men vanish, fires sputter in the wind. And still, beneath it all, he endures, grim as the grave, jaw clenched, eyes set upon a single point of light that only he can see. Stannis Baratheon is still alive. In the tale most know, he is already ash on the wind. A broken man who marched his army into a snowstorm and never returned. A father who burned his only daughter to win a war and lost anyway. His soldiers deserted. His cause collapsed. His sword arm failed him. And in the end, Brienne of Tarth stood over his fallen body and passed judgment. But that is the show's telling. A swift death, a bitter failure, a warning to all would-be kings. The books remember something else. In a dance with dragons, Stannis Baratheon marches from Castle Black with a ragged host of knights, Sells words, and northern bannermen. His goal is Winterfell, held by the Boltons, but his path is fraught with snow, sabotage, and betrayal. Yet as the book ends, he is not dead. Far from it. His army remains encamped near a frozen lake, plotting the siege of Winterfell. He has not burned his daughter. He has not been defeated. His lines hold. His banners still fly. The Stannis of the books is a different man. No less proud, no less rigid, but more calculating, more cautious, more complex. In the show, Stannis is broken down. His losses mount. He sacrifices Shireen at Melisandre's urging. His army collapses under the weight of the storm. His wife hangs herself. His gods are silent. He rides into death, a shell of the man who once claimed kingship. But in the books, his choices diverge. Shireen remains safe at Castle Black, under the care of Melisandre and Queen Celis. The fires have not claimed her. There is tension. Melisandre speaks often of the Lord's will, but Stannis has not yielded. Not yet, and perhaps not ever. In fact, his current campaign reveals a mind still sharp and ruthless. He tricks the Freys into overextending themselves in the snow, using misinformation and false reports to draw them into a trap. He captures Asha Greyjoy, not out of cruelty, but strategy. He sends ravens to secure alliances. He reads northern history. He learns. He adapts. The North remembers, they say, and Stannis listens. He begins to understand that defeating the Boltons requires more than force. It requires honor, deception, patience. And so he waits. In the snow. In the silence. But more than strategy, his survival changes everything. In the show, Jon Snow reclaims Winterfell in the Battle of the Bastards. He defeats Ramsay Bolton, becomes king in the north, and sets the stage for the Targaryen alliance. But in the books, without Stannis' defeat, that future is not possible. Jon remains dead. Sansa is in the Vale. And Stannis, the rightful king in his own eyes, stands poised to take the north. His claim is not one of passion or prophecy. It is legal, binding. He is the last Baratheon, the chosen of the Red God, the sword in the darkness. And unlike others, he believes in justice, in law, in duty. Whether this makes him a hero or a villain is unclear. But he is not finished. The show discarded him quickly, reducing a complex character to a cautionary tale. But the books still treat him as a king, a hard man, a dangerous man, and perhaps, in the right circumstances, a necessary one. Because while Jon lies bleeding in the snow, while Daenerys is lost in the Dothraki Sea, while Aegon moves south with his golden company, Stannis waits in the north, holding the line. And in his camp, not all is still. Melisandre still sees visions in the flames, of snow, of battle, of kings reborn. The night's watch is fractured. The wall stands quiet. Winterfell is not yet won, and the fires have not yet been lit. So ask again, what if Stannis lives? Then the North may not rise for the Starks. Then the Boltons may fall by a different hand. Then the war for the Dawn may find its champion in an unexpected place, not in prophecy, but in cold resolve. The game is not over. The king is not dead. He waits in the snow, sword in hand. The snow fell softly on the Eyrie. Far from the fires of Winterfell, far from the screams and blood of Ramsay Bolton's chamber, Sansa Stark stood in silence. Not a victim, not a bride, but a player yet unseen. In the tale most remember, Sansa is sent to Winterfell by Littlefinger, betrothed to Ramsay in a twisted plot to restore Stark authority in the North. What follows is horror, a forced marriage, a brutal wedding night, and a descent into fear and silence. She survives, yes, and eventually escapes, but the scars run deep, physical and emotional, shaping her path toward quiet vengeance. But in the books, that marriage never happens. Sansa Stark does not set foot in Winterfell. She does not wed Ramsay Bolton. She does not endure his cruelty. That role, that fate, falls upon another. Her name is Jeyne Poole, once a handmaiden and childhood companion to Sansa in Winterfell. Jeyne was taken after Ned Stark's downfall and imprisoned in King's Landing. Her fate was long unknown, but in A Dance with Dragons, she reappears, not as herself, but under a false name, Arya Stark. The Boltons, needing to legitimize their hold on the North, marry Ramsay to this impostor. A girl who knows nothing of ruling, nothing of resistance, terrified and abused from the moment the gates close behind her. To the Lords of the North, it appears Arya Stark has returned to Winterfell. But the truth is a deception, born of politics and fear. Jeyne's suffering is real. The horrors inflicted by Ramsay are no less savage than in the show. But it is not Sansa who endures them. And that changes everything. Sansa, in the books, is still in the Vale. She remains hidden under the name Elaine Stone, the supposed bastard daughter of Peter Baelish. She is not powerless. She is not broken. She is learning, observing the game from a high perch, watching Littlefinger scheme, studying his methods. She hosts feasts, speaks to lords, guides the boy Lord Robert Arryn. She plays the role he has given her, and yet, she becomes more than he anticipates. She is not yet a queen, but she is no longer a pawn. In the show, Sansa's arc is accelerated by trauma. Her marriage to Ramsay, her escape, her rise in the North, all stem from that suffering. It becomes the core of her transformation, the darkness that sharpens her edge. But the books offer a different kind of growth, one born not from torment, but from strategy. And the absence of Sansa at Winterfell alters the North's entire trajectory. There is no Stark name legitimizing Ramsay's rule, no symbol to unify the broken bannermen. Many lords doubt the girl's identity. Some whisper that Arya is dead. Others bristle under Bolton command. The alliance is fragile, held together by lies and fear. Worse still, the marriage between Ramsay and the false Arya sparks chaos. Theon Greyjoy, Reek, is drawn into the lie. He recognizes Jeyne and begins to remember who he once was. The guilt breaks him. He helps her escape, leaping from the walls of Winterfell into the snow. The North erupts. Stannis prepares his assault. The Boltons grow desperate. This unraveling never requires Sansa's presence. She is untouched by it, and this preserves her power. Because in the Vale, Littlefinger is plotting to reveal her true identity at the perfect moment, to wed her to Harry the Heir, Harold Harding, and claim the North through blood and marriage, not violence. With the Vale's knights and the Stark name united, his vision is clear. A new power rises from the ashes. But more than politics, this divergence is about agency. Sansa's suffering in the show was visceral, unforgettable, but it came at a cost. It reduced her to a victim to raise her later as a survivor. In the books, her evolution is slower, subtler, and arguably more dangerous. She lies to lords. She keeps secrets. She adapts to the cruelty of court. She learns from Peter, perhaps too well. And one day, she will emerge not as the girl who was broken and rebuilt, but as the girl who watched everything and remembered. So what if Sansa never marries Ramsay? Then the North is not reclaimed by Stark blood. Not yet. The Boltons rule by fraud. The Northmen are restless. And in the Vale, under the wing of a falcon, the true Stark daughter sharpens her claws. Her throat was slit. The Freys laughed as they carved the life from her, and her son's body was desecrated beneath the banners of false guests. Catelyn Stark died at the Red Wedding with grief in her heart and blood on her hands. Her final act a scream, her final thoughts a curse. But in the books, she did not stay dead. Not entirely. In the show, her body is never seen again. Her memory lives on in her children, her name remembered in whispers and grief, but her fate is sealed. No resurrection, no justice, no return. But in the pages of A Storm of Swords, the story takes a darker path. 3 days after her murder, her corpse is pulled from the Green Fork by Arya's dire wolf, Nymeria, who drags her to the banks before vanishing into the wilderness. There, her body is discovered by a band of outlaws, the Brotherhood without banners. Their leader, Beric Dondarrion, a man who has died and returned 6 times through the magic of R'hllor, chooses to give her his final breath. He places his lips to hers and dies for the last time. Catelyn Stark lives again, but not as herself. She rises as Lady Stoneheart, a figure of vengeance and death, her flesh pale and cold, her voice little more than a wheeze through a half-severed throat. Her face is twisted, her spirit consumed by rage. She remembers her death. She remembers the betrayal. She remembers the Red Wedding. And she wants blood. The Brotherhood without banners, once protectors of the small folk, become something darker under her command. They no longer seek justice. They seek revenge. They hang Freys, Lannisters, and anyone suspected of aiding the slaughter at the Twins. Trials are swift. Mercy is forgotten. She spares no one. This change never reaches the screen. The show abandoned Lady Stoneheart entirely, choosing instead to shift those tones of vengeance into Arya's arc. But in the books, Catelyn's resurrection is not a subplot. It's a reckoning. Her return impacts characters far beyond the Riverlands. Brienne of Tarth, searching for Sansa, crosses her path. She is captured by the Brotherhood and brought before Lady Stoneheart. There, in the darkness, she is judged not as a knight, but as a traitor for traveling with Jaime Lannister, Catelyn's once prisoner and hated enemy. Brienne is given a choice: kill Jaime or hang. We do not see her answer, only her scream. Jaime himself, having left King's Landing to restore order to the Riverlands, unknowingly walks into her territory. His story, as it ends in a feast for crows, places him near her reach. Perhaps his final judgment will not come from Cersei, but from the woman he once swore to protect. This divergence is profound. Without Lady Stoneheart, the Riverlands in the show become a silent backdrop. The war ends. The Freys remain unpunished until Arya's intervention. The Brotherhood reverts to vague mentions and forgotten cameos. But in the books, the war never ends. The Riverlands are a land of ghosts, corpses on trees, burned villages, travelers gone missing. Fear grips every road. Justice has twisted into retribution. And the last true Stark matriarch becomes something far removed from the woman who once stitched wounds and prayed by candlelight. Thematically, Lady Stoneheart's existence reframes the idea of resurrection. Jon Snow's return in the show is framed as miraculous, heroic, a new beginning. But Catelyn's resurrection in the books is monstrous. She does not return whole. She returns as the embodiment of grief unhealed, justice unfulfilled. There is no comfort in her survival, only dread. This casts a shadow on the broader idea of coming back from the dead. If she could not return as herself, if love could not follow her into the grave, then what might Jon become? And even more, what does it mean for the North, for the Starks, that one of their own walks again, but only to destroy. There is no queen in the north yet. No peace. The Boltons still rule. The Riverlands still burn. And from the ruins of war, a figure rides with a rope and a name. Not Catelyn. Not anymore. Lady Stoneheart. And she remembers everything. He sails beneath a black banner. No sigil, no name, no mercy. To the lords of Westeros, he is a king of the Iron Islands, a kinslayer and a crow come home. To his own people, he is both feared and followed, a storm in human skin. But to those who know the old ways, who have heard the whispers from the far reaches of the world, he is something else entirely. Euron Crow's Eye is a sorcerer, a blasphemer, a man not bound by gods, but fed by them. The show made him a brute, loud, flamboyant, a swaggering pirate obsessed with thrones and queens. He murdered his brother Balon, seized the Salt Throne, seduced Cersei Lannister, and died forgotten beneath a crumbling red keep. A fast rise, a noisy fall. But the books tell a very different tale. Euron returns to the Iron Islands after years adrift. Not adrift in the naval sense, adrift in the way of men who have gone too far. He claims to have sailed beyond the smoking ruins of Valyria, to Ashai by the Shadow, to the lands where fire and stone weep blood, and even death walks on four legs. And he did not return empty-handed. In a feast for crows, Euron's ship, the Silence, arrives with a crew of mutes, priests, captains, and sails whose tongues he has ripped out. Their mouths are stitched shut, their eyes hollow. No man aboard can speak the things they've seen. He brings with him a horn. It is longer than a man's arm, black and banded with red gold, etched in runes that twist in the eye. The sound it makes is not music, but pain. Fire. Blood. When blown, it kills the man who dares it, searing lungs, bursting veins. And yet it promises power. They call it Dragonbinder, a horn said to control dragons, a relic that should not exist. Euron presents it at the Kingsmoot like a god revealing a weapon. He does not promise peace, or wealth, or long life. He promises war, dragons, a Targaryen queen for a bride, the conquest of Westeros by fire and sea. And they choose him. But Euron's ambitions stretch far beyond thrones and crowns. In the Winds of Winter preview chapters, we glimpse the truth behind his facade. He is not just sailing to conquer. He is summoning something. His brother, Aeron Greyjoy, the Damp Hair Priest, is captured and imprisoned in the bowels of Euron's fleet. There, in the dark, he witnesses rituals. Naked bodies chained to prows, severed limbs, sacrifices offered not to the drowned god, but to stranger gods, gods of shadow and blood. Euron forces priests of all faiths, septons, red priests, maesters, to serve aboard his ship, only to mutilate them, drown them, bleed them dry in the name of power. Aeron dreams of Euron seated on a throne made of skulls, with a bleeding star overhead and a dragon's shadow sweeping across the sea. These visions, laced with madness, seem less like nightmares and more like prophecies glimpsed through a crack in the world. Euron drinks Shade of the Evening, the warlock's potion of Ashai. His lips are stained blue. His eyes shine too bright. He speaks of becoming a god, not just a king, not of ruling the seven kingdoms, but of ending them. He tells Aeron that he will bring the apocalypse, and from his hold, he pulls more than swords and sails. He brings a red priest, chained and starved, a warlock from Karth, broken and hollow-eyed. A Valyrian steel armor he claims is cursed and blessed in the same breath. And he sends his brother Victarion east to Meereen with the horn in hand and orders to retrieve Daenerys Targaryen. But Victarion, a brute with a blackened arm he believes touched by the gods, does not trust Euron. He hears the whispers of the drowned god in his dreams. He begins to believe that the horn may be his salvation, that he might tame a dragon himself and betray his brother. Yet what none of them truly grasp is this: Euron does not plan for alliances. He plans for domination. and destruction. Where the show presents the Ironborn as pirates, the books cast Euron as something ancient, a man who walks the line between reality and myth. He is a Greyjoy in name, but in essence, he is more akin to the Bloodstone Emperor of the old tales, the first tyrant of Valyria, a necromancer king who fed his family to demons and ruled through blood and terror. And unlike other claimants, Euron is not waiting for fate to hand him a crown. He is making one, of fire, of flesh, of unspeakable sorcery. So what happens when he meets Daenerys? Or if Victarion blows the horn? Or if Euron claims one of her dragons through binding, blood, or worse? The show made Cersei the final foe. But in the books, the true final enemy may not sit on the Iron Throne. He may sail toward it, with a horn that kills, an army of mercenaries, and a heart that beats to darker rhythms. Euron Greyjoy is not a mere villain. He is a threat to the entire world. And the question is not whether he can be stopped. It's whether anyone will even understand what he is before it's too late. The many-faced god has no favorites, but death remembers names. In the show, Arya Stark becomes the deadliest assassin in Westeros. Her arc is swift, direct, and dramatic. She trains in the House of Black and White, kills her enemies with flair, and even strikes down the Night King in one unforgettable scene. She returns home a legend. But in the books, her path is not legendary. It is cruel, slow, and layered with danger. She does not leap through bravos as a faceless shadow. She suffers. She stumbles. She breaks. And through it all, she clings to something the faceless men tried desperately to strip from her. Her name, Arya of House Stark. Her journey in A Feast for Crows and a Dance with Dragons unfolds not as a hero's training montage, but as a psychological war. A war against identity. A war of discipline, obedience, silence, and shadows. She arrives in Bravos under the name Salty and is taken into the House of Black and White, a temple to death masquerading as a place of peace. But there are no grand welcomes. No sudden transformations. Instead, she is put to work, sweeping floors, cleaning corpses, watching in silence. The kindly man does not teach through praise. He teaches through loss. Arya must give up her clothes, her sword, her name, her past. She is told, "Who are you?" And each time she answers, "No one," the lie is punished. Her transformation begins not with magic, but with suffering. She is struck blind after failing to follow the rules, not as a punishment, but as a lesson. And in her blindness, she learns. She learns to listen, to footsteps, to heartbeats, to breath. She learns poisons. She learns lies. She learns that death is not a weapon, but a ritual, a promise granted to those who truly seek it. She becomes cat of the canals, a street vendor and child spy. She sells oysters and gathers whispers for the temple. She kills a man not with glory, but with subtlety. She learns to spot liars. She learns to mimic accents. She learns to betray. But always, she dreams of wolves. Each night, even across the sea, Arya wargs into Nymeria, her dire wolf, and runs through the Riverlands in fur and fawn. No other faceless man dreams as a beast. No other servant of the many-faced god keeps a soul so alive. And in that, Arya is a failure. A brilliant, terrifying failure. The show skips this complexity. It implies Arya becomes no one, trained and transformed. But in the books, Arya never stops being Arya. Not truly. She lies to the kindly man. She refuses to surrender her coin from Jaqen. She still keeps Needle hidden in the stone wall of the temple, a blade of Winterfell, not Bravos. She is being trained, yes, but not completed. And every lesson cuts. The blindness, eventually lifted, is not a gift. It is a test, a filter. And though she regains her sight, she loses something else each time she obeys. She kills Darion, a Night's Watch deserter, not because she was told to, but because he betrayed Jon. and she does so without permission. This act is critical because it shows that Arya, for all her training, remains ruled by vengeance. Not faith, not service, not detachment. The House of Black and White does not create assassins for revenge. They grant death to those who seek mercy. They are not killers, they are priests. And Arya does not fit. She is a Stark. Her list of names grows shorter, but louder. Cersei, Island Pain, Melisandre, the Mountain, the Hound. Names whispered at night like a prayer. A list the faceless men never asked her to make. And the magic? It is not nearly as smooth as the show presents. The art of wearing faces is not just putting on skin, it is becoming the person. Their memories, their speech, their pain. It is dangerous, ritualistic, rooted in blood and old secrets. Arya is still learning this art. In the Winds of Winter sample chapters, she continues her work in Bravos, now under the name Mercy. She is acting in a mummer's troupe, assigned to kill a Westerosi envoy in secret. She uses charm, poison, and calculated cruelty, but even then, her Stark blood seeps through. She doesn't just kill the man. She whispers a name, Valem Morgulus. Even thousands of miles away, the girl from Winterfell has not vanished. She's just hiding. This makes Arya one of the most unstable elements in the story. She is being taught to serve death, but refuses to forget life. She is surrounded by liars, but remembers truths. She is trained to be no one, but remains Arya. And she may never fully succeed in her training. Because if the day comes when the many-faced god truly demands her soul, she may walk away. Or she may kill them all. The show rushed her transformation. It skipped the agony, the contradictions, the dogma. It presented the House of Black and White as a backdrop, a mystical school for faceless vengeance. But the books treat it as something far colder, more sacred, more terrifying. Arya Stark is not just learning to kill. She is learning how much of herself she's willing to lose to do it. And the answer may define the fate of far more than just her enemies. Steel does not forget the hand that wields it true. In the show, Ser Barristan the Bold dies suddenly, ambushed in an alley in Meereen during Season 5. A quiet end for one of the most legendary knights alive. His passing robs the story of a figure shaped by honor, memory, and battlefield wisdom. But in the books, Ser Barristan Selmy is not dead. He is very much alive and holding command. After Daenerys disappears atop Drogon during the Fighting Pits incident, Meereen is left in chaos. In the show, Daario and Tyrion step into the power vacuum. But in the books, it is Ser Barristan Selmy who takes charge. A living link to Westeros' oldest truths, he remains a loyal protector, not just of Daenerys, but of her cause, her people, and the oaths he swore long before her dragons hatched. And now, he is forced to lead. After Dany vanishes in a dance with dragons, Ser Barristan is named Hand of the Queen, a title he never sought, but accepts with grim resolve. The city of Meereen teeters on the brink of destruction, surrounded by the forces of Yunkai, Volantis, and the mercenary companies of the East. The siege of Meereen begins. Disease spreads. Famine creeps in. And Ser Barristan must become more than a knight. He must become a general. The transformation is striking. This is no longer the old man dismissed by Cersei Lannister. No longer the outcast shamed from court. In Meereen, Ser Barristan commands armies. He rallies the unsullied, negotiates with Sel's words, and prepares for war against overwhelming odds. He does not lean on titles. He leans on honor. Barristan's chapters in the Winds of Winter preview material show him organizing defenses, struggling with the choices of command, and preparing to lead a cavalry charge against the Yunkish lines, mounted atop a silver horse, wearing the white armor of a Kingsguard. He knows that death is near, but he rides anyway. The battle he is preparing for, the Battle of Fire, may be one of the most significant events in the upcoming book. Forces converge from every direction. The Ironborn with Victarion's fleet, the Yunkish armies, the the Second Sons, the Stormcrows, and even plague-carrying refugees. Ser Barristan is one of the few voices of clarity and conscience. He rejects torture. He respects the laws of war. He treats former enemies with decency. In a city torn apart by cruelty and ambition, he represents something most characters in Essos have long forgotten: chivalry. But his presence does more than shape Meereen. It reshapes the Targaryen cause itself. He serves Daenerys not because she has dragons, but because he believes in her bloodline and the memory of Rhaegar Targaryen, whom he loved as a son. He sees in Dany the last chance to restore honor to a broken legacy. And unlike the show, where Barristan never speaks of prophecy or bloodlines, the books give him a deep awareness of history. He remembers the tragedy at Summerhall. He knows the weight of prophecy, the shadow of the prince that was promised. He suspects that something greater than war is coming, and he prepares for it the only way he knows how, with sword in hand and vows unbroken. This also leads to a key structural difference. In the show, Tyrion advises Daenerys in her absence. In the books, Tyrion is still far from her, and Barristan commands Meereen, which dramatically changes the entire political and military trajectory of her storyline. Tyrion may yet arrive, but when he does, he will not find a city in chaos. He will find Ser Barristan the Bold, armored, unbending, and very much still in the game. His survival not only changes who controls Meereen during its most critical hours, it also reshapes the military alliances forming around Daenerys. Because Barristan commands respect, from the Unsullied, from the Shave Pate, from the people, and perhaps even from Daenerys herself, if and when she returns. His death in the show removed a vital voice from her council, a voice that might have warned her away from madness, or at least offered resistance to it. In the books, that voice still rides into battle, and if he survives the coming storm, he may return to Westeros not as an old man, but as the last living knight of the Old Realm, carrying Targaryen banners, speaking the truth of Rhaegar, and reminding the lords of Westeros what true loyalty looks like. Barristan Selmy was never meant to die in an alley. He was meant to die on his horse, with his sword in his hand and his name remembered. And in the books, that story is still being written. He sails east, but his soul is drowning in the west. Victarion Greyjoy, brother of Euron, captain of the Iron Fleet, and true Ironborn to his marrow, is a character entirely absent from the show. A brood of salt and steel, a warlord forged in the cold rites of the drowned god. And now, in the books, he sails toward Daenerys Targaryen with something ancient in his hold. A horn, a cursed thing, a weapon of dragons, Dragonbinder, sent east by his brother Euron, who promised him Daenerys Targaryen as a bride and the dragons as a dowry. Victarion's mission is clear: retrieve the queen, bind the beasts, and return in triumph. But nothing is ever simple when blood magic stains the hall. The show never depicted him, never gave weight to this journey. But in the books, Victarion sails under omens, and under the influence of forces neither he nor his crew fully understand. After the Kingsmoot, where Euron seizes the Salt Throne through gifts and sorcery, Victarion is humiliated. Yet he accepts the errand, not to serve his brother, whom he hates, but to take what he desires. Victarion intends to betray Euron, to claim Daenerys for himself, to use the horn not for Euron's rise, but for his own. This intent sets him on a collision course with prophecy, fire, and death. Dragonbinder is no simple artifact. It is longer than a man's arm, black as night, ringed with red gold. It screams when blown, a sound like agony, fire, and stone splitting. And when a man sounds it, he dies. His lungs cook. His mouth bleeds. His life is taken. Victarion has already seen it happen. Yet he keeps the horn close, locked in his cabin, watched by maesters and mute slaves. He does not trust it, but he believes it can make dragons obey, and if it does, then the Iron Fleet will be unstoppable. And still, the horn is not the strangest thing aboard. For Victarion, wounded in battle and cursed by a festering infection, is dying. Until a mysterious red priest, Makoro, a follower of R'hllor, is pulled from the sea. Makoro is no ordinary priest. He speaks of visions, flames, and chosen kings. He heals Victarion's wound using blood magic and flame. His arm blackens and hardens like burnt leather, but the pain disappears. Strength returns. Victarion believes the priest is a tool of the gods, that he's been chosen, but the truth may be darker. Makoro sees things in the fire. Ships, dragons, doom. He whispers of fate and victory, yet never reveals his true loyalty. Is he guiding Victarion or using him? The Red Priest becomes Victarion's advisor, his healer, his secret weapon. And the captain begins to see himself not just as a lord, but as a king. He begins to believe that the gods have marked him, that the horn is his to master, that Daenerys will be his bride, and that Euron, the kinslaying sorcerer, will burn. The Iron Fleet sails closer to Meereen, just as the city teeters in chaos. Daenerys gone, war brewing, and Barristan Selmy preparing his charge. Victarion's arrival could tilt the balance of power dramatically. He brings with him over 100 ships, ironborn reavers ready to sack, burn, and pillage. The dragon horn, believed to control the beasts. A priest of fire, who may see the dragons as part of his god's prophecy. And most dangerously of all, ambition. But Victarion is not cunning. He is not wise. He is wrathful, devout, brutal, and tragically simple. He believes in signs, in strength, in taking what he wants. And this makes him unpredictable. If Daenerys spurns him, will he attack? If the horn kills again, will he dare blow it himself? If Makoro tells him to burn cities, will he obey? The show never dealt with this possibility, that an entire armada of Ironborn might reach Meereen before Daenerys sails, and that one of them might try to claim her through fire and ritual. Victarion's arrival could destroy the Yunkish siege or plunge Meereen into worse chaos. He may fight for Daenerys. He may try to take her hostage. He may die blowing the horn that binds dragons. But what he cannot do is go unnoticed. The horn, the fleet, the fire priest, all of it converges into a storm the show never showed. And more importantly, Victarion's mission reveals something crucial about Euron. He never expected his brother to return. This journey may not be a gift, but a sacrifice. If Victarion fails and dies, then Dragonbinder is tested, and Euron can learn from afar. If Victarion succeeds, then Euron may follow and take the spoils. Either way, the dragon horn moves closer to the queen, and the sky grows darker. The books treat Victarion not as a sideshow, but as a crucial fuse, a man sailing toward dragons with a weapon of sorcery, a priest of prophecy, and a heart full of war. He is not a chess piece. He is a hammer, and when he lands, something will break. The dragon has 3 heads, but one of them is already marching. Long before Daenerys ever reaches Westeros in the books, before her dragons darken the skies over King's Landing or her banners fly in Old Town, another claimant to the Iron Throne has already set foot on Westerosi soil. His name is Aegon Targaryen. He is young, he is bold, and he claims to be the trueborn son of Prince Rhaegar Targaryen, long thought murdered as an infant during the sack of King's Landing. But here's the truth the show never told. Aegon is alive, not a myth, not a whisper, not a hidden twist at the end. He has landed with the Golden Company, taken Griffin's Roost, and begun his campaign to reclaim the 7 kingdoms, under the dragon banner, with fire in his blood and a cause in his name. This story, central to A Dance with Dragons and the opening of The Winds of Winter, was completely cut from the HBO adaptation. Instead, the show gave the name Aegon Targaryen to Jon Snow, a change never explained and never connected to this original arc. That decision erased an entire invasion, a false or true heir, and one of the boldest power moves in the endgame. Because Aegon isn't just alive, he's winning. Known to his inner circle as Young Griff, he was raised in secret across the narrow sea under the protection of Jon Connington, former hand of the king and loyalist to Rhaegar. Connington, disgraced and exiled after Robert's rebellion, believes in the boy's identity absolutely. He trained him to fight, to lead, to rule. He dyed his hair blue to keep him hidden. And when the time came, he led him out of hiding, not to beg for Daenerys' support, but to conquer without her. It is Tyrion Lannister who recognizes the opportunity. During his travels with young Griff and the Golden Company, Tyrion realizes the boy's potential, whether he is truly Rhaegar's son or a carefully crafted pretender. It doesn't matter. The symbol is real. The army is real. The claim is real. And so Tyrion whispers the fatal suggestion. Why wait for Daenerys? Take Westeros now. And Aegon listens. He crosses the sea with the Golden Company, 10,000 elite mercenaries sworn by contract and coin, but now bound by vision. They do not loot. They seize. With discipline, with intent, with dragons sewn into their banners. They take Griffin's roost without bloodshed. A foothold, a statement, and now they move. The show's story suggests Daenerys returns to Westeros unopposed, with all eyes on her. But the books present a world where she may arrive to find the throne already taken, not by Cersei, not by Jon, but by a Targaryen whose claim is stronger, whose armies are prepared, and who is already being called king. The identity of young Griff is a mystery even in the books. Some believe he is truly Aegon, somehow smuggled out during the fall of King's Landing by Varys, replaced with another infant before Ser Gregor Clegane could find him. Others believe he is a Blackfire pretender, a descendant of the Targaryen bastards exiled long ago, raised by Illyrio Mopatis and Varys to sow chaos and rule in their interest. The truth may never be confirmed, but what matters is the momentum. Young Griff's arrival challenges everything. If Daenerys hears that a Targaryen boy has taken Storm's End or marched on King's Landing, her strategy must change. He may be ally or rival, but he is now a major obstacle between her and the Iron Throne. He has already claimed to be the Dragon Reborn. He believes he will be king. Jon Connington, dying slowly of grayscale, pushes the campaign forward with desperation. He sees the clock running out. He remembers the tragedy of Rhaegar. He believes this boy, this idealized, just, courageous prince, is the second chance Westeros never had. And many lords may agree. For Aegon offers not fire and conquest, but restoration. A return to the days before Robert's rebellion, before madness, before betrayal. He is young enough to be shaped, old enough to rule. A Targaryen without the baggage of Daenerys' years in exile, without her foreign advisors or foreign armies. And yet, there are cracks. The boy is untested. His decision to invade without Daenerys may prove rash. His claim may unravel under scrutiny. If he is unmasked as a fraud, all will collapse. But if he succeeds, if King's Landing falls, then Daenerys may not return as a liberator, but as an invader of her own dynasty. The show ignored all of this. It gave Daenerys a clear path, free of competing dragons. It handed Jon Snow the Targaryen name, but denied him the crown. And it reduced the Golden Company, one of the most formidable armies in the books, to a forgettable defeat. But in the novels, the dragon already flies. Not from the east, but from the Stormlands. And the realm is watching. The Dornish do not forget, and they do not forgive. When Oberyn Martell fell in King's Landing, his skull crushed by the mountain, the realm expected Dorne to rise in wrath. The show leaned into this, transforming the Martells into a family fueled by vengeance. Illyria Sand became a rebel queen. The Sand Snakes rose as killers, and Doran Martell was reduced to a whisper, then quickly silenced by his own kin. But in the books, Dorne's response to Oberyn's death is not loud. It is not wild. It is precise. And it begins not with vengeance, but with marriage. The show removed a key player in the game, Quentyn Martell, son of Prince Doran. A quiet, bookish young lord raised not for war, but for a pact. A pact older than he is. A pact forged between House Martell and House Targaryen in the dying days of King Aerys' reign. It was agreed in secret that Princess Alya's children would not be the only bond between fire and sun. Another union was promised between Daenerys Targaryen and a future Prince of Dorne. And when Viserys and Daenerys fled into exile, when Robert Baratheon's rebellion washed away dragons from the land, that pact did not die. It went underground, into silence, into Doran Martell's vault of patience. Years later, when the world is once again stirring with dragon fire, Doran acts. But he does not send armies. He sends his son, Quentyn, a young man burdened with duty he never asked for, loyal, awkward, and deeply conscious of the weight on his shoulders. He travels across the sea with a small company, under false names, through danger, disease, and betrayal, all for one mission: to find Daenerys Targaryen, to offer his hand in marriage, to unite Dorne with the Targaryen cause. He is not charming. He is not fearless. He is no Oberyn, but he is honest. His journey in a dance with dragons is long, weary, and perilous. He is robbed, hunted, and manipulated. By the time he reaches Meereen, Daenerys is surrounded by suitors, threatened by war, and entangled in politics far deeper than any Dornish alliance. She listens to his offer, and she refuses it. For Daenerys, marriage is a weapon, one she has wielded before, and Quentyn is not the blade she needs. But he does not give up, for in the depths of his heart, a heart full of duty and desperation, Quentyn believes he can still win her favor, still forge the bond that could save his family and his homeland. And so he does something desperate. He attempts to steal a dragon. In a city on the edge of war, beneath the Great Pyramid of Meereen, Quentyn Martell unlocks the doors to the dragon pit. He enters alone with two companions. He believes that if he can tame Viserion or Rhaegal, Daenerys will see him as worthy. What happens next is fire. The dragons do not kneel. They do not know his blood. They do not recognize his dream. They burn. Quentyn is scorched, maimed, and soon dies from his wounds. And in that moment, the entire Dornish strategy collapses. This is not just a failed marriage proposal. This is the end of a generational gamble. Dorne's hopes to bind with House Targaryen die with Quentyn, and the Dornish response to this failure, to this death, is still unfolding in the books. We do not yet know how Prince Doran will react when he learns his son is dead, not in battle, but in fire. We do not know how the Sand Snakes will respond, whether they will push Dorne toward war, toward blood, toward another path to power. But we do know this: Quentyn's death is not meaningless. His attempt to claim a dragon may unleash chaos in Meereen, setting the beasts free, turning the tide of the siege, altering Daenerys' eventual return. And symbolically, it shows the truth about dragons. They are not prizes. They are not pets. They are not won by good intentions. The show replaced this quiet, slow, and emotionally charged subplot with a rushed revenge arc, where Dorne kills its own prince, allies with Daenerys in a single scene, and offers no strategy, no pact, no history. But the books treat Dorne differently. They give us a realm ruled not by fury, but by memory. A prince who plays the long game. A son who tries, and fails, to change the world through duty rather than conquest. Quentyn Martell's journey is not grand. It is tragic. And in the world of Westeros, where dragons return and kings rise from ashes, his small death may yet ripple through the fate of empires. A song was promised. A prince would come, and the world would burn or be saved. In the show, prophecy faded. The visions, dreams, and ancient riddles that once shaped the early seasons were abandoned. discarded as misdirection or forgotten in the rush to end wars. The prince that was promised became a half-spoken phrase. The Valonqar prophecy vanished from Cersei's arc. The House of the Undying was never revisited, and when the long night came, it was over in a single night. But in the books, prophecy remains a living, breathing force. It haunts, it whispers, it drives choices, shapes destinies, and promises that fire and ice are not yet done with the world. Unlike the show, the books never shy away from the power of foretelling. Dreams are not just symbols, they are warnings. Visions are not poetic, they are maps if one dares read them. And at the heart of it all lies a mystery that still holds the entire narrative in its grasp. Who is Azor Ahai? The prince that was promised, a messianic figure spoken of in both Westerosi and Essosi lore. A hero who will be reborn amidst salt and smoke, waking dragons from stone, wielding the burning sword Lightbringer, and delivering the world from darkness. The Red Priests believe Lawler is the god of light and fire, and that his chosen one will stand against the great other, the god of death and cold. In the show, this prophecy is briefly linked to Jon Snow, and Arya ends the Night King in silence. In the books, however, the prophecy lives, and it touches many lives. Daenerys Targaryen, rising from flame, mothering dragons, walking through ash and visions, is believed by many to be Azor Ahai reborn. Her journey is shaped by prophetic dreams, by the whispers of Caith of Ashai, and by the cryptic riddles seen in the House of the Undying. She sees the Red Keep in ruins, a blue-eyed king on a throne, a silver beast above a great wall. Her visions are thick with symbolism, some already fulfilled, others yet to come. Jon Snow, meanwhile, has dreams of crypts, of icy darkness, of ghostly voices calling from beneath Winterfell. He dreams of fighting with a burning sword, of wearing black armor, of being a dead man walking. The books hint, not subtly, that his death at the hands of the Night's Watch may be a beginning, not an end. And then there is Melisandre. In the show, she becomes a plot device. In the books, she is a tormented zealot, deeply convinced that she is serving Azor Ahai, and that Stannis Baratheon is the promised one. Her visions, clouded by fire, lead her astray. But she is not the only seer. Maester Aemon, before dying, begins to suspect that Daenerys, not Stannis, is the fulfillment of the prophecy. He remembers the tales, the signs, and the forgotten detail that the prince in Valyrian is a genderless term. He dies trying to reach her, but his doubts stir the fire again. In Dorne, Princess Myrcella's death is foretold through prophetic dreams. In Old Town, the doom of Valyria is still studied like a puzzle. In Meereen, Caith's cryptic words continue to warn Daenerys to beware the perfumed seneschal, to go north, to remember who she is. Even Bran Stark, now beyond the wall, sees the world through the eyes of weirwoods and old gods. He dreams of flying, of dark wings over Winterfell, of secrets buried in the roots of the world. Prophecy in the books is not exact. It is flawed, broken, distorted through time and translation. The characters who chase it often fail, blinded by ego, fear, or false hope. But the existence of prophecy is never in doubt. Because Westeros remembers, the House of the Undying was not a dream, it was a vision of fate. One that spoke of the dragon's 3 heads, the betrayal for blood, the betrayal for gold, the betrayal for love. The show cast off these threads. It chose realism, subversion, ambiguity. But the books remain in a world where the old gods speak through trees, where Targaryens dream the future, where Bloodraven, a man fused to a tree, trains Bran to see the past and what lies ahead. Even the Night's Watch is filled with fragments of prophecy, old tales of the last hero, who faced the long night with 12 companions. The Horn of Winter, which could bring down the wall. The waking of stone dragons in the cold. The North remembers. And in the Citadel, Marwyn the Mage warns Samwell Tarly that the Maesters fear magic, that they are the reason prophecy is dying, that they crushed it, buried it, silenced it, but it still burns. The final pages of A Dance with Dragons are drenched in foreboding. A comet bleeds across the sky. The dragons grow restless. And Jon Snow, stabbed in betrayal, falls into the snow with only ghosts nearby and silence. What comes next? If the books fulfill these prophecies, if Azor Ahai truly rises, if Lightbringer is forged, if the wall falls not in one night, but through ancient mechanisms, then everything changes. The show treated prophecy as background noise. The books treat it as the melody behind the entire song. Not a plot point, not an aesthetic, but the spine of the tale. And though its words are tangled, and its bearers are many, prophecy in the books still points toward one undeniable truth. The end has been seen, but not yet understood. So there they were, 15 paths diverged, 15 changes that did not merely reshape the journey, but transformed the tale itself. Jon Snow's death and the silence that followed. Daenerys, caught in prophecy and shadow, her dragons circling a city not yet burned. Euron, dark and mad, calling gods into his lungs with a horn of doom. Aegon Targaryen, true or false, already marching on Westeros with banners unfurled. Quentyn Martell, consumed in fire for a queen who would not wed him. And prophecy, not dead, not discarded, but whispering still in every page, every vision, every cold gust of wind from the north. These were not small changes. These were foundations, tectonic shifts buried beneath surface moments. When the show chose its path, for budget, for brevity, for spectacle, it left these bones behind. And with them, the shape of a different story, one not yet finished. But in the pages of the books, that story still breathes. If you felt that the tale rushed to its end, that fates were unresolved, that truths were left unspoken, you are not alone. The real tale, the full tale, waits still in the winds of winter. And if you want to know what really happened to Jon Snow, if you want to walk with Daenerys into fire and see if she ever turns back, if you want to follow young Griff to the gates of King's Landing, then stay with us. Subscribe to this channel, and together, we'll step into the shadows left behind, one truth at a time. As the Maesters say, a reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies. The next one begins now. Have a good night.